One tip for every agent. You can use combat stealing to rotate as fast as possible to other sites. Or an attack, you can use it to break breakables as fast as possible. When you have ult on Viper, you don't be planting the bomb. The reason being is because you don't want to plant the bomb and give away your position with the sound queue, and you don't want to be stationary for 4 seconds following Viper ult and giving away the sound queue, as you're way more likely to die. You can use Omen ult to pick up the spike.
My ultimate is ready.
There is one more tip with Omen I wanted to show you, is that one's fairly well known. There's something called an Omen ult cancel, where you sit in a corner and you cancel your ult to get behind the enemy. So basically you use your ult and then they come around the corner, they check the corner, you're not there, then you cancel your ult and reappear there with no sound cue, and you can shoot them in the back. The reason why I'm not showing this right now is because I'm making the video on the same day. I haven't asked anyone for their footage or anything, and I don't have footage of it myself. So if you want to see it, then it's called Omen ult cancel on YouTube. It's like the first one at the top if you Google Omen ult cancel. So if you want to see what that looks like, you can do that. There's plenty of clips of it as well. You may have already seen it. You can use fake smokes as normal smokes, just so you retain the star afterwards. And you can use this to get to positions that you may not have thought you could get to. When combined with elevation, Cove can allow you to take some risk-free fights.
Blocking fire.
You sit like this, and if someone comes around, you one-tap them, or you can one-tap them or shoot at them, and then you instantly crouch, and you're completely fine, shielded by the bubble. The most important thing when looking at Phoenix is when do I heal, versus when do I use my abilities normally. And the thing is like sometimes you don't even need to separate the two. You can use your abilities normally and still heal off them. The biggest one is the wall, right? The Molotov is way harder to do and not very realistic. To have both uses at the same time, right? Because you're not going to be controlling the space and healing most of the time, unless you like maybe against a shotgun or very, very close quarters. But generally, the wall and healing is going to be the two things you can do together. So let me just get a bit more damaged. So there I'm on 70 HP, right? Which is actually great because I'm on 70 HP right now. So say if I didn't have armor, I've got 70 HP. So I've been hit twice with a Vandal, right? 80 HP has been taken away from me. So right now, to actually get relevant healing, I only need to heal 11. The reason why I only need to heal 11 is because damage is in increments of 40 when against a Vandal. So if I'm on 81, it requires 3 bullets, right? Because I'm on 1 HP if he hits me with 2. So I only really need to heal 11 health with this wall, right? So all I have to do is sit here for 11 HP, or maybe more, you know. I guess a bit more, fine. And then I can walk across. And you see the timing is pretty good for Pearl, where I can actually just get across to this position. And still heal the 11 HP. So I actually did 2 things there. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be you, right? Say if you're on 30 HP, you need to heal 51, or you need to heal 50 HP, you're on 31 HP, or something like that, right? You're like, you know, something like that. You only need to heal, like the whole duration. Then you can get your teammate to go walk across this wall, and you can still heal. Completely fine. One big thing about his thing is if you get hit 3 times, then you're on 30 HP, which means that you need 11 HP to go up to 2 bullets to kill, but you also need 51 health to go up to kill. Sorry, to go up to 3 bullets to kill. And that's a problem, right? Because your heals only heal you for 50, not 51. You need 1 more HP there. So what you can do is, you know, sometimes at 30 HP, I actually would do this quite often, is I would heal with this, like normal, right? In a random ass corner. It doesn't have to be this one. It can be anywhere. But then I'll be like, I'll probably be on like 50 plus 30. I'll be on 80 HP at this point, right? I'll be on 80 HP. And then when I go to use my wall, instead of just using my wall, like to heal at that time, like when I was healing in the corner, instead I'll save it and wait until I'm actually going to use the wall, maybe in this position, and then I'll use it to heal the remainder of the HP I need to get to 3 bullets, right? So that would only be 1 HP, right? So I don't have to be in the wall for like 1 second, and I can start using the wall as if it was a normal wall. I can flash through, do all these other things, right? Jet doesn't hold off angles as good as she used to, because the timing on her dash, right? But what she does do, still, you know, about the same as Chamber, is she can place a smoke, or she can use enemy smoke or friendly smoke, to then peep the smoke and then dash out pretty fast, right? Just a sort of slowed down version, where you just sort of go out, and then you're going to shoot this, and then you're going to dash out, right? So you can get really fast at this. So you can just like see them instantly and then flat dash out, right? Obviously you do better than me. But you can do someone dash out, right? Very, very simple. You can do that in so many angles with so many things, right? You do it with the wall, even, right? But smokes tend to be better because no other agent can really do this, right? Because if they do this and then try and run away, they get shot through the smoke. And they get sprayed through the smoke and probably die, right, to the trade. This doesn't happen to Jet. So, you know, while a lot of other agents are like sort of held back by the walls of the game, right? The natural sort of cover of the game. Jet and Chamber aren't held to these standards. They can use smokes as ways to find angles. Roses can be good. So if you don't know what a rosa is, it's named after a rosa where you basically just miss a result. Or don't use it or something, right? Or you get killed during it. So you may notice there's like a rocket fuse here, right? And the important part to realize is that this is actually part of the ult. I know that sounds very weird, but it's part of the ult that's actually got some pressure tied to it. Where during this time, the enemy team are going to not want to take fights versus you. They're going to run back. They're going to try and find natural cover. They're going to try and not fight you at all costs. Because the odds are that they are going to get traded at the very least when they're fighting you. Unless they have some sort of off angle or a very surprising angle versus you. So use this to your advantage. If the enemy team's about to push in and they basically can't stop, you know, it's a point with no return. There's already like 2 people that have entered the site now, so they have to push in using this. Use your ult very close, and you don't even have to go in with it. You can just sit here. If say they're coming out of this, right? You just sit here with the ult, and there's not really much they can do about it. They have to sit in the open, or they have to try and go back, or they have to try and fight you, at which point you probably get a trade, or maybe even you get just a kill. With Reyna, ult as much as possible. The amount of times I've seen people hold on to Reyna ult for no good reason is crazy. This ult has such a high ceiling, and all it takes is spamming it throughout the round, throughout the game, right? When something has a high ceiling or has like a high payout, right? Then it's important to be in the race as much as possible, rather than to save it for when you might think it goes off the most. Because the odds are is that you don't see when this can actually win you rounds or not. It's very, very hard to see when this wins you rounds or not, because it's very embedded in mechanical ability and honestly just the situation itself. And you don't even always have the full information available to you. So you should ult on cooldown, more or less. There's honestly situations where obviously it's going to be bad, it's going to be good. But that's kind of the nature of the game, right? But the biggest benefit of this ult is that it's 6 points. You can generate it fairly easily, especially as a duelist. It's a lot easier to generate this ult than it is on other agents. So, or generally the way you're going to play, right? You're going to try and get kills. The enemy team, like the rest of your team, like, you know, an Astra, a Fade, they're not going to necessarily try and get kills 100% of the time. They're going to be trying to help you get the kills, if anything. So you want to be trying to use your ult on cooldown. Its strength is its 6 orbs. When playing Neon, one of the most important questions is, how do I time my slide? And the question is actually not that simple, unfortunately. So the idea theoretically with the slide is that you want to be swinging out to like wide angles most of the time, right, with the slide, and it should make you more difficult to hit. In reality, it doesn't. It does make it more difficult to hit, really, not that much. Not as much as they probably would have aimed or liked it to be. So the idea with the slide is that you want to time your slide right on the corner when you're going to swing, right? So slide close and then swing. That was a terrible actual shot, but it's all good. You get the idea, right? You want to make sure like you're not visible when you're sliding as massive amount, right? But the other way to look at this, and that's just one way to look at it, right? So the other way to look at it is that you want to use it to wide swing for your teammates, right? So you want to be like the, what I call the attack dog of your team, where you're kind of like baiting the enemy's shots, right? You're trying to take away their crosshair placement and put it on you, rather than put it on the team that's also coming out behind you. And it's less applicable for competitive, especially when you keep going down the ladder. Higher in the ladder, it's definitely going to be more applicable. But you want to be like used to the slide to sort of throw off the enemy's aim. So basically, if I'm an enemy and I'm aiming at this corner, and there's a neon that's going to slide, my crosshair placement is going to be like this or something, right? So when they slide, if I'm not paying attention and understanding like what the roles of the team is going to look like, right? And also bear in mind that Neon is still a threat. When as soon as she ends the slide, she can one tap you. So, and you mean she can kill you during the slide technically as well. It's just very, very gambly to shoot during your slide. But I'm going to be having my crosshair placement here. When the Neon slides, I'm going to be trying to track her and then shoot her when she stops, right? Most of the time. Or I'm going to shoot her during her slide. And after that, there's going to be teammates trying to trade with her, right? And a lot of the times, especially when you've got an operator, ignoring the Neon and killing the person next up is going to be potentially more beneficial and a lot easier. Because they're going to peek and they're going to be like way easier to kill than the sliding Neon. And that's like something that happens a bit, right? You may see like Asana's jump peaks when he decides that he's going to jump peek as like the first person taking contact, right? It's exactly the same situation, just a very, very different way to do it. Okay, so this one generally is a lot harder to show. For this is Yoru. And basically the tip that I've got is you don't have to make a big play every round. And it's a lot harder to show that, right? Because your gate crash isn't useful at every point in every round. Yeah, it's nice to have it sometimes, especially now that you can fake it, you know? That happened, actually that was added like quite a bit ago. But nice that you can fake it now, so then it is actually maybe a bit more useful every round. But you don't have to use it in every situation. You don't have to overplay the situation with your gate crashes, with your I better say fake footsteps, but I can't remember what it's called now. It's called clone fake out. Okay. You know, bear in mind, like, you don't have to be TPing into the backline every round. You don't have to do all these things. You can still play the mind games, but bear in mind that mind games aren't just existing within one round isolated. So if you've done like the same teleport back B every round, maybe this round you're gonna want to fake, and then just play kind of like every other agent would, you know, play with like your flashes. If they try and run up on you, you're gonna try and flash over, and then peek them when they come through. That sort of stuff, right? You may want to slow things down for some rounds, so then when on your fast rounds it feels a lot faster to the enemy team, right? When you're like teleporting in, making plays, it feels like it doesn't happen every round, so then they're more surprised when it actually does happen. That's an important part of Yoru, and I think that is one of the biggest tips for him. Don't play this agent. But in all seriousness, one of the biggest things with Breach is his positioning. So you may notice like I put the bomb here. So in the post plant situation when the bomb is planted here, the worst place for Breach to be is actually main if you have aftershock, right? Like where are you going to aftershock? You can't aftershock this, it doesn't reach. So where do I play, right, as Breach in this situation? Right, even here is good, right? You can do this. Close is good, you can do this. PT is good, you can do this. Obviously this one is wild to sit if you're actually playing post plant like slow, like if they're playing like to actually execute the post plant, if that makes sense, right? It's not just like low elo. And obviously if you don't have that up, then all of a sudden main is really good, right? Because the flashes are going to work really well. The ult hits pretty much everything from this position, and obviously contrary to other positions it doesn't, right? So this position, I think it kind of does, kind of wide enough. But like if they're coming from main, like they can dodge it. Coming from flowers, they can kind of dodge it. So you know, main seems like probably one of the best options to have. It's also completely open for the bomb as well, so you can peek off the util you're sort of using. So you can see that Breach's positioning means everything, right? And it's different for every map. So you need to make sure you learn where you need to be at certain points. And this isn't just relevant for post plant either. This can be relevant for the start of the round when you're trying to flash for a teammate to go in somewhere and take space, right? And it's also important for your fault line that you don't stun some people because you're behind your teammate and they're trying to go in and they get stunned by you. So you need to make sure you learn positioning when you're on Breach. On Sova, one of the most important things is not wasting your recon dart. The recon dart is probably the most powerful part of your kit. So you don't want to be wasting it on things you basically can't capitalize on, or you know, not really getting much util or much value out of it. So one thing I do, especially on like icebox when I play mid, is that I'll drop down to this area as long as they don't have anything that can really catch me off guard, like if the Raze or a Jet is being played, or if they are being played but they don't tend to go mid, then I might do this, right, where they can't, like, you know, those two agents are very capable at getting to me during my drone, so I don't want to be doing that. So I'll use drone early on to get information. So bear in mind I can hear from this drone, right? So I can hear footsteps in B, I can hear footsteps in A, and I can see a lot of mid and their spawn. So I want to be making sure like I'm using drone over recon, right? Because even though recon does refresh, it's not going to refresh.
Scanning ahead.
I've got abilities on. But if I turn it off,
Revealing area.
so every 40 seconds I have access to this ability, right? Problem is like, yeah, you may think it comes back off cooldown. But if in solo queue, it's very, very possible that they take the site within 40 seconds of you using it at the start of the round, and then you don't have it for the start of the retake, and then your team aren't patient enough, you go in, or the enemy team start pushing you, and you don't have anything to sort of help you stem that push, and you end up dying on the retake because maybe enemy team are like maybe too aggressive and you're not ready, or your team is just way too fast and not willing to wait for your cooldowns. So importantly, you need to use stuff like drone to find early advantages, especially because nerf drone isn't really that good. Is a lot less good than people realize, and I think it's very, very good at getting early information. You can treat it similar to way people treat Cypher Cam. You're kind of just there to get early information. It's not there to be like the big value giver of like the whole round, right? You're not playing for the cam to stay alive the whole time. The same with the Eldrone, right? You're not playing for the Eldrone to be sort of like that last thing that you need to sort of win you the round. And one important note, that I don't really do this when I have ult up. If I have ult up, I might decide to hold on to both things and just jump spot mid and rely on my enemy team, my team playing it maybe a bit safer. I'll tell them that I'm not going to get any info this round at the start. So when playing Fade, parallel pathing is important. So what I mean by that is, say if I want to clear B long on Pearl, what's the best way to parallel this, right? The amount of times I see this scares me. The best way to parallel this is to go on the left side, right side, and then go left. The reason being is that it will actually latch onto anyone playing this position, even post change. Because the aggro range will latch onto them. And you may notice that when people do this, it's not actually going to trigger on people on the left, right? It won't actually trigger unless you do something like this, and then at which point, obviously, you can't check behind the pillar. You can't check behind the pillar. So make sure that you're going into practice games or like custom games and sort of making sure you got the right parallel pathing for positions, right? Go and practice it. I think Haven A short got a lot harder with the changes recently to Fade. So I would go and practice that one especially. Counter Knife is a very interesting ability. So say if the enemy team is just planted, and you do this knife. Okay, maybe not that knife. You do this knife, okay? So it reveals what? All of this space, right? A lot of, like, within this sort of radius, right? So, you know, you might get 2 scans or something like that, right? So how useful is that information? You know, 2 people a site. Cool, I guess. It's great for a retake. Yeah, it's good. It's not bad. But it could be better. The reason why I say it could be better is because maybe someone's played under rafters in this little position for like 2 rounds, and you need to try to find out if they're in that place still, right? Sometimes this may be enough. They play it that often, and you get the scan on them. Maybe that's enough for you to think they're there. And maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Who knows? But what you can do is you can throw it actually tutors for the position. So what it does is it will scan like maybe top of rafters, or like whatever this is, nest, whatever people call it, heaven, and then also it will scan there. So it basically is scanning 2 positions that you don't have like proper vision of. And if you get someone scanned with it, then you know, guaranteed that they're in one of those 2 positions. Obviously the risk comes in, right? Because you can definitely do this and get no scans, which means that you know that no one is within this radius. And that is pretty strong, because there you know that a lot of these angles are actually going to be clear. So that probably happens like when people are playing offsite and that sort of stuff. So if you're playing against like a Sova and a Viper, and the Sova has ult up, then you know this knife is literally going to get no one probably, because they're probably going to play offsite, they're going to play lineups, they're going to play for Sova ult. And if you know that information, then you can use this to silence them for 8 seconds. So very, very important to use knife critically, and like think about knife critically, or like maybe even in like a custom game, and like what knives can you do to help you get like refined tutored information. So you can even do ones like this, right? Close knives like this, right? To test if someone's pushing you. That's a very popular knife that I see a lot, where people just throw the knives at the wall against. I do it as well. To see if anyone has actually just pushed me from their position, like walked in like behind the Viper smoke that usually sits on this like sort of ramp. Maybe someone walked up through here and sitting in this corner. I think I can just use this knife to test if someone's close to me, right? And the odds are is that they're either here in like this position or they're here, right? So in a safety, I'm probably going to throw a flash to clear this position. With Sky, you can use her flashes to trick the opponent into thinking you're somewhere else. So for instance, on this one on A, you can actually flash, make it look long. It is possible, maybe it requires some practice. Clearly requires some practice. That's a quick and simple one. As Sage, you might be accustomed to doing default type walls, where you just do like the same wall every round, or you have like a set of walls you do and you kind of mix them up between. That's pretty good. But bear in mind that you can also integrate walls that allow you to get into off angles into this. And that can definitely help to get some early round kills, especially when they're expecting a Sage wall to be there, and especially when they like to spam that Sage wall. Especially in like these kind of positions, right? So they're expecting this wall and they like to spam it. Why not do this Sage wall? And then when they go to peek that Sage wall, you just one-tap them instead, and then you can fall off the angle. But when you're playing Cypher or Killjoy, you kind of want to have like a set of util that you want to do. These are just my trips. But you want to have like a set of like trips, right? And that you can like kind of mix and match for the situation. So maybe I won't have obviously I won't have all these up at one time. But I'm going to maybe pick 2 I'll use for the same round, and I'll mix and match them up on the same site. That's very obvious, right? I think a lot of people kind of get that. But the other thing about it is that when you get to a point where you can remember all the setup on one site, you shouldn't stop there and be like, well, I'm done. That's the only site I need to know. Make sure you know another site on the map, right? And I've got Haven on right now, so you know there's 3 sites, but that would be the other site on that map, right? You need to know both sites. The reason being is because you don't want to be on the same site every time, because if they get used to you being on that site, it's actually really nice to use that information against them, because they know that you're on C, or in this case that I'm on C, right? As Cypher, they're not going to be focusing as much on C, or they might decide to try and lurk through C someone. Or something like that, right? Or they might actually still attack C because they might know that I'm going to give up C. So what you can do is you can actually just swap sites in those situations, and you can have like a heavy stack on C and then play like retake B with 1 on A, and then if they feel like they want to try and take the site over with Cypher, right? Because they know that I'm going to give up the site, they're going to be met with like very, very harsh retaliation when they have when there's like 3 to 4 teammates on that site, ready to retaliate, right? Because maybe we just Sage wall B or something, you know, maybe something like that. And we like heavy stack C and they get absolutely obliterated, right? Like that's just theoretical, but the important part is that you know at least 2 sites on Haven, and you know every single site otherwise, right? Every site that you play Cypher or Killjoy on, that you know what you want to do, and then you can use the pressure that you've generated in previous rounds on that site to then trick them into losing more rounds. So on Chamber, you can do off angles fairly easily, or you can hold off angles fairly easily. So one off angle I like on Haven C, maybe not with this rendezvous setup, usually I'll put the second rendezvous somewhere else, depending on like what I think is going to happen. But this is a nice off angle I like to use because lots of people don't pre-aim this particular angle, right? They're going to pre-aim like that or this with a wide swing, or they're not going to look at me directly. So I can have an off angle. I'm most likely going to take the first shot in this angle, unless the enemy team or the enemy is just better than me. Then I'm going to take the first shot most likely in this, right? And this angle is not the greatest representation of what I'm about to say, but you can get a kill. And then you don't have to TP. In this angle, I would recommend it, but there are plenty of angles, say like Ascent B, which I probably should have used for this demonstration. Maybe I can use Garage, for example. Actually, yeah, I definitely can. So I'm going to peek Garage, or like sit in this off angle here, wait for someone to peek, and then, you know, get a kill, right? But then I don't have to TP away. I can just sit in another off angle, and then wait for another person, right? And they might not contest me because, you know, maybe I'm using my chamber up. Maybe that was a Vandal kill, you know, maybe I just one-tap the person. and I'm sitting here in the soft angle, right? But there's a couple things that can happen at this point. That you allow the you force the enemy team to use utility against you. So they're gonna flash you, they're gonna use prowlers against you, gonna drone you or something, dog you, do something like that, right? And then at that point you can teleport away. You've used their util that they don't have for sight now, right? They have -1 flash for sight, they have -1 dog, -1 drone, something like that, right? Another thing you can do as well is just get another kill and TP away. So there's two options, right? Most likely that's what's going to happen. So it is important to make sure that you don't have to completely reposition, but you do have to reposition. So if I ever get a kill here, I don't want to stand here still. Like I don't want to like while like doing the bolt of my sniper rifle, I don't want to then peek again because I'm going to peek right into probably an enemy's crosshair and die. So what you want to do is that I get the first kill and then I'm just going to sit on the off angle, and then wait for someone to swing me or like the util again, right? Thanks for watching the video. If you didn't know any of the tips or one of the tips, then a like would be appreciated. Also, if you have a tip of your own, then you can put it there in the comments to help more newer players or intermediate players. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more content, then subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.